Well, this is my first Leadercast event to participate in as well, and talk about an amazing environment with a wealth of knowledge that people were openly and willingly sharing. I thought Andy Stanley was just a superb start of the day. I had 2 pages of notes for my presentation. I turned them over and I had 2 pages of notes from him. So it's like a wonderful, unselfish sharing of a wealth of information that people have gained over the years. And as I stressed in my presentation, even though you may have completed your formal schooling, going to school never stops. And you can't invest too much in yourself. And the fact that you've got this array of impressive speakers, august people gathered in one place who are willingly and openly sharing, I mean, this is like a graduate course held in one day where you've just got a wealth of information that you can pick and choose between that which is relevant and helpful to you. I don't know if anybody's ever asked me that question. You know how they were developed? Because I made those mistakes in those areas. When I talked, I gave the humorous story about my dress and attire when I went over to IBM, totally inappropriately dressed. I talked about promptness, historically late, profoundly late, so I work on that. I talked about working in a diverse environment. Working with a colleague like Terry Bradshaw certainly prepared me to understand that one has to have thick skin working with somebody who's a little different than you. And Terry and I are the best of friends. We take turns whenever we're giving speeches to kind of get on the other. So he'll hear about this through a number of other people. But also, quite honestly and seriously as well, because I had such a tight bit of time, those characteristics developed from a talk that was given to us by a senior executive at Xerox after I did not get a chance to realize my dream of playing professional basketball. I did work 6 months in government first, and then I had an opportunity to go to Xerox, which was then the hot company in the market with the copier machines. And we had an executive talk to all of us then young new employees, and he said, I want you to understand the objective and subjective criteria for success in corporate America. Under the objective, there's one element, criterion, that is to do the job, meet your quota each and every month. Under the subjective criteria, there are a number of things that can cause you to step on landmines and be bounced out of the corporate environment and not make it. So I'm going to share with you those things that I've learned over the years that are very important for you to keep in mind. And even as I shared with this very impressive audience out there, many who are quite successful in their own right, it still goes back to the basics. And so that's where I learned it from, was from him. And I've applied that in every environment. And even being in the media, understanding the element of communication and those 3 bullet points, if you will, that listening is the most important. As I'm doing an interview, I didn't get a chance to do it with Coach Saban because he ran over time, and who's going to tell Coach Saban, you're running over time? So, but I listened to what he said and developed a list of questions from that with which I was going to talk, although I did get some help from a colleague of mine, Eric Peterson, as well. So there are always probably new storylines, different storylines, and maybe what we can even think they're going to be at this point in the season. So I remain excited, fascinated, intellectually stimulated by what transpires over the course of the summer. That which appears to be uppermost in people's minds right now because the draft was just held. You talk about the precipitous drop of Larry Bitunil, because of his off-the-field behavior. Miles Jack, whether or not he's going to cause concern because of the injury and the possibility of microfracture surgery down the road. Those things are in the news cycle right now, but inevitably there will be something that comes up along the way that will replace those stories. Now, there will still be sidebar stories for sure as we go into the season, so I'm noting those things to keep track so that I can document that in storybook fashion as we get into the season, but there will be more things and probably more significant things that will happen as we get to it. Each season is always that way. The so-called experts are talking about who's going to win. Nobody knows. I mean, please give me a break, but they're paid to engage in that kind of dialogue and guessing that stimulates discussion.